I do want to talk about Rudy Giuliani as a figure. I mean, over 20 years ago, he was really revered. I'm in New York City. He was America's mayor. He really had this reputation after 9/11. He was on the cover of Time. And then obviously things did take a turn over the past 2 decades. And his attorney asked the jurors to remember him, who he was after in the aftermath of the September 11th attacks, and the attorney reportedly said, quote, "This is a man who did great things. If he hasn't been so great lately, I want you to judge him by the entire character of who he is." Is who he is or who he was 20 years ago matter to who he is now?
Interesting. By the way, I remember when he came on Saturday Night Live right after 9/11 and said, "Is it okay for us to be funny again?" I mean, he really helped us transition from a time of sadness to a little bit of normalcy. And I don't think that that argument of focusing in on his entire career was entirely legally relevant. The focus should be on the harm to these two women and their careers and their lives, not the entirety of Mr. Giuliani's conduct, but what he said once he became Trump's lawyer.
So in the eyes of the law, let's say you're an upstanding citizen 2 decades ago, now you do something defamatory. That really doesn't matter, right?
It's absolutely irrelevant. It's the plaintiff's character that's at issue and their reputation, the harm to their reputation that's at issue, not the character or reputation or history of the defendant.
I do want to now pivot to the financial responsibility on Mr. Giuliani now. His lawyer said that this high of a payout is, quote, "the civil equivalent of the death penalty, and it will, quote, be the end of Mr. Giuliani." What happens if he's unable to pay that $148 million?
Well, this judgment's going to haunt him for the rest of his life. He could try to declare bankruptcy, but the intentionality finding and the punitive damages will probably foreclose any kind of discharge. So he's not going to be able to get this debt discharged in bankruptcy. It will haunt him for the rest of his life, and maybe even his heirs will have to be dealing with this debt after his death.
And what happens with the two plaintiffs? Will they ever see a cent of this money?
I don't think so. You remember a fellow by the name of O.J. Simpson who had a multi-million-dollar verdict against him for civil wrongful death? He hasn't paid much of his judgment. And more recently, Alex Jones, he's in bankruptcy. He's negotiating a deal, but he hasn't really paid anything. Lawyers can drag these things out for years. I would expect in this case they're going to file an appeal. And after the appeal, Mr. Giuliani will try bankruptcy. And after bankruptcy, he'll hide his money. And I doubt these two women will see anything significant anytime soon.